Okay, great. So welcome everybody. Let's get started. I'll invite you to come onto your mat and lay down. I was doing a little restorative yoga a minute ago, so you can see I'm with you guys on feeling a bit tired today. And Finnegan is always in that mood. So you can come and lay in a constructive rest pose, which is laying on your back with your knees bent and your feet on the floor. But feel free to take any shape that works for you. We're just going to get centered um, and do a little bit of grounding before we start kind of moving. So really any shape is fine here that feels safe and comfortable for you. And if you are taking the constructive rest with me, you can let your knees fall together so that they're nice and relaxed, and hands could be on the belly or out to the sides, wherever works for you. And then take a couple of deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just kind of drop whatever is available to drop. Whatever tension you're holding on the surface that you can release, just go ahead and let it go. Just really taking a moment to notice the ground, the earth, the land, and your relationship with it. And to the degree that it feels safe and comfortable for you to do so, kind of allowing yourself to be held, be supported by this earth. And receive your breath. Let it come into your body as deeply as it wants to go. And let's just take a few minutes to be there, just to feel the breath moving into the body and just notice what happens as we do that. Just keeping with that connection to ground, to earth. And just noticing if there is anything in particular that your body is saying to you right now, any particular intention you might have for your practice, just taking a moment to allow that to be present if there's something there. And just checking in before the class, it sounds like some of our bodies are saying rest. So we'll see if we can make some space for that today. And some of our bodies are also saying move, right? So we'll just work with some balance in those places and just try to stay present as best as we can as we move through. So as always, feel free to stay here as long as you'd like. Otherwise, we can start to move a little bit. So I'm just opening my arms out wide and I'm taking the windshield wipers. So my feet are about mat's distance and I'm just washing my knees from side to side. And if you're not laying on your back, maybe you'd like to join us here. You can also turn your head away from your knees and just taking your windshield wipers as fast or as slow as feels good in your body. You could connect the movement with your breath, maybe inhaling to one side and exhaling to the other. And then let's bring the knees through center. You can just let them relax together for now. And if they're not already, open your arms up nice and wide like a T. We're going to do a little bit of a shoulder, what's this one called? The washcloth. So just as a little practice run here, we'll inhale, and then as you exhale, roll your right shoulder forward so the shoulder blade comes off the ground, and then relax that, and then go the other way. So the shoulder blade rolls down the back and the palm turns up, and then relax that. Hi, Megan. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So the left shoulder will roll forward. So you're internally rotating, and then come back to center. And then the shoulder externally rotates, so the shoulder blade moves down the back and the palm turns up. So that's the movement. We're going to try to bring it together. So next time you inhale, allow your right shoulder to roll forward and your left shoulder to roll back at the same time. So there's like this little squeeze or twist that's running along the shoulder girdle. And then relax. And then go the other way. So the left shoulder is rolling forward, the right shoulder is rolling back. And then release. So it's just like twisting out a wet washcloth, which is why this one's called washcloth, shoulder washcloth. So we're just twisting from side to side, just kind of squeezing out those little sticky places in the shoulder girdle. And you might notice that your head is already moving with your shoulders. So generally your face will turn towards the shoulder that is externally rotating, but don't worry too much about what that means or whatever. Don't worry so much about that. Just kind of relax the neck and allow the head to move as it wants to. So you're sort of not resisting the direction it wants to go. And then just continuing with that. Turn down a little bit so you can see better. And then from here, if this is working for you kind of in your rhythm, you can add the windshield wipers back in. So you can allow the knees to tilt away from the face. And again, don't worry too much about this. It doesn't really matter that much which direction your knees are going, okay? But just kind of adding that twist along the vertical spine as well. So we're getting a nice squeeze for the whole spine. You're more than welcome to have your eyes closed here. Don't worry too much about what this looks like. Just taking your time, breathing, feeling. And just going to take about one more round. If you need more, please feel free to take more. Ideally, we are doing about the same amount each side, but if you can't remember which side you started on, don't worry too much about that. We'll just come right back through center, and you can just kind of flop out for a moment, let your legs go long and your arms be open, and just allow everything to kind of sink towards the ground. Lovely. And then we'll bring the knees into the chest. Give yourself a little hug, a little rock from side to side. And then send the legs and the arms up towards the sky. So the knees can be bent, doesn't have to be high or anything. And just circling the ankles and the wrists. And just seeing if you can kind of spread your fingers and your toes as you're doing this so that you're really kind of articulating all those little joints. And then you can reverse the direction of the circle. Beautiful. And then gently allow the knees to come in once again. Hold on to your left knee and extend the right leg out long onto the mat in front of you, pressing forward through the heel. Hug your knee a little bit wide towards your left shoulder, so you're kind of hugging it into the side of your belly, and take a nice deep breath. Soft belly right here. Nice. And then we can take this into a little bit of a twist. So holding your left knee with your right hand, allow your left arm to relax to the left, And then take your knee across your body. So it might just be like a couple inches. You might roll right over onto your hip and take a one knee twist. Don't feel like you have to touch your knee to the floor. You don't. Just going as far as feels right in your back today. And you can look to the left if you like. Beautiful. And then gather back, hug in the knees. And switch sides. So you're holding onto your right knee, left leg goes out long onto the ground in front of you, and just staying here. And this pose is called Apanasana, which is a pose for Apana, which is the downward flowing energy. So it's kind of a grounding place to be. Just hugging the knee a bit wide, letting your breath be really soft in your belly. Really nice. And then gently opening into a bit of a twist. So again, just taking that as far as feels right in your body. For some people, this twist is a little intense. So just being gentle, it should feel good. That is the name of this class after all. So your right arm can extend out to the right and you're just taking your knee across to any amount. So don't feel like the goal is to touch the floor. It's not. It's just to feel a nice stretch along your spine, taking a few breaths there. Maybe you're looking to the right. Awesome. And then we'll come back through center, hugging in both of the knees. And then we'll place the feet on the mat. So we're going to do a little bit of work into strengthening the supportive muscles along the body. So we'll work from here for a little bit. So gentle core. But let's start with a bit of pelvic tilting. So just with your feet kind of underneath your knees pointing straight up. Let's inhale, tilting the pelvis forward. So the belly kind of expands, pelvic floor softens, arching underneath the back, and then gather your pelvic floor in and up first. And then belly button presses back towards the spine, and we're kind of flattening the back to the ground. And just do that a couple more times. So inhaling, soften the front of the body as you arch the back. And then as you exhale, see if you can kind of initiate from the pelvic floor, so that set of muscles around the genital area, and then we're gathering it up in through the deep core. And then release. So this is a nice way of just kind of saying hello to some of these deeper muscles, inviting them to activate. Okay. And then come to a nice neutral back and then engage the core. So you're going to keep your back relaxed, but you're going to gather in your pelvic floor, belly button presses towards the spine, but we're keeping that neutral back. Okay. So you can stay here. Some of you might want to interlace your fingers behind the back of your head and lift your shoulder blades up. So that's just going to add a few more of the abdominal muscles in. And then inhale and lift up your right foot. And as you exhale, gently put it back down. And then inhale up your left foot. And then gently put it back down. So we're just moving, marching gently side to side. And we're trying to keep the belly button pressing back and up. So it's not so much that we're doing a huge movement here, but that we're just trying to get these deeper core muscles to activate in a supportive way. So, it shouldn't really feel stressful. It shouldn't feel like it's super, super intense. If it is feeling stressful, if you're feeling like, oh, this hurts my back, or this doesn't feel quite right, you can actually straighten the leg at a time. So that's a little bit of a different one, but it's even a bit more supportive. You might feel it a little bit differently. That's another option, okay? So just see what works for you. If you are lifting your head up, try to relax your head into your hands so that you're not doing this with your jaw. Okay. And we're just going to do one more round. So I'm just going to do one more on the right and then the left. Really nice. And then we'll relax. You can let the knees fall apart, feet together, relax the belly, take a couple nice deep breaths. Lovely. Okay, so we're gonna do another one here. So we're gonna bring the knees together, feet together. So it's just a little bit of a narrower stance here. And then let's take the middle fingers to the hip points and the thumbs to the ribs, and then just kind of gather those 4 points together. So you might, as you're doing that, actually feel the activation in your pelvic floor and your core, and that's a good thing. Lift the toes up as well. And then as you next inhale, allow the right knee to open to the right. And then as you exhale, gather it back in through the center. Okay, and then inhale, left knee opens out to the left. And it doesn't have to touch the floor or anything. We're not necessarily going that far. And then on the exhale, we're bringing it back in. So here is the challenge. It's not a huge movement or anything, but try to keep the 4 points that you're touching with your fingers completely still. So from the perspective of these 4 points, nothing is happening. Okay, so try to really work from those deep internal muscles so that this place is really steady and sure. Okay, and it might be a little bit wobbly, especially if you're newer to this one, and that's totally okay. It's just something to work with. It helps me a lot to have the toes lifted. So I've got socks on right now, but my toes are kind of lifted and flared. And that just helps to have the really deeper core activated. Okay, and there's a little piece that you can add on here as well if you're feeling like you've got a pretty good handle on this. This is a bit of an imagination exercise, but just think about as you inhale, knee opens to the side, so to the right here. And then on the exhale, imagine that the right half of your pelvic floor was initiating the movement of lifting the knee up. So that's just going to bring it even a little bit deeper into your body, if you can kind of imagine that side of your pelvic floor doing the work. Okay. I'm just going to do a few more of these. This is definitely a little bit more of a brain one. And this is one of our feel good postures that is in the service of feeling good in general, right? Having a supported lower back and a strong pelvic floor. I'm just going to do one more each side. That's it. And then we'll relax. Feet together, knees wide, or knees together, feet wide, whatever works for you. Do a little flop, maybe a little sigh. And just feeling the effects of that. So again, relatively gentle stuff, like relatively subtle, but I can definitely feel that right now myself. So we're gonna come back to a shape that we did a moment ago, but we're just gonna add a little bit of height to it. So if you have a prop like a brick or a cushion or a pillow or something like that, it doesn't have to be high. Just go ahead and tuck that underneath the back of your pelvis. And if you don't have anything, you don't really need anything, you'll just feel a little bit more of a stretch if you do elevate your hips a little bit. And then bring your right knee in towards your chest and extend the left leg out. So it's the same Apanasana, but with a little bit of support underneath the hips. So you might feel the stretch a little bit more here. Hug your knee wide towards your armpit and breathe down into the left side of your belly. Keep your left foot flexed and press forward through the left heel. This is one of my favorites. I find this really, really feels good. It just kind of stretches out the hip flexor and the psoas, which is sometimes a little hard to get into. This is a bit more of a passive one we can do. And then we'll switch sides. So place one foot down and then the other, just kind of stabilizing in between. And then draw in that left knee, extend the right leg, hug your knee wide, pressing forward through the right heel. And breathing down into the pit of your right side belly. Nice, and then we'll gently release that so you can place one foot down and then the other as you're ready, and just take a moment to feel that. And And then you can gently lift your hips and slide your prop out from underneath your bum. And then when you're ready, go ahead and roll over to one side. So I'm on my right side now. So as much as I harp on our butt core, I don't feel like we've done it in a while. So we're gonna do a little bit of that. Little strengthening for the outer hips, super supportive for low back, pelvic floor, all of that stuff. So we're just gonna start with the knees together. We've got a little bit of a natural curve in the lower back. And again, the feet are flared, knees are just slightly pointing down. And we're gonna open the knees like a little clamshell, and then lift the foot, and then bring the knees together, and then the feet together. So the knee opens, the foot lifts, the knees come together, and then the feet come together. Okay, so with the breath, you can inhale to lift, and then as you exhale kind of as the knee descends, if that makes sense. Okay, so just moving with your own breath at your own pace. This should feel comfortable in your back. If you would prefer to have your head laying on your arm or on a pillow, that's totally welcome. Okay, just looking for a little bit of work in this outer hip region here. We don't necessarily get to these muscles all that much. So if you're feeling it, that is a good thing. Okay, we're just gonna do one more here. Nice, and then relax. You can take your soft fist and just gently pad out the outer hip. Nice, and then extend that top leg. Flex the foot, turn the toes a little bit down, gentle engagement through the belly. It doesn't have to be a lot, and I'm just supporting with my left hand in front of me. And then you're gonna take your heel back and up behind you, like you're making a little letter J, back and up. Yeah, that's it. Try to keep the toes slightly pointed down so that you're working from the back of your hip rather than your hip flexor. Good, aiming for about 6 of these. And that's about 6 there. Okay, take a little rest. You can pad out the hip once again. And we're gonna try for one more. Okay, so this one is a little uncomfortable. So if it's too much, feel free to take the last one, or obviously just take a rest if it's not working for you. Otherwise, try to straighten your leg out kind of in the same direction as your bottom thigh. Turn the toes down, and then we're just gonna lift and lower. So we've got quite a bit of weight that we're lifting. Yeah. So if you haven't been feeling that outer hip working, you will probably be feeling it now. Yeah, and toes are still tilting down. We're doing about 6 of these. For 2. And 1. Nice work, you guys. Okay, relax. You can pat out the hip again. Okay, and then we're gonna do a little hip opener to release that. So take that top leg, this is my left leg, and you're just gonna step the foot right in front of your right foot. So you've got the sole of the foot down and the knee kind of points up like a little shark fin coming out of the water. You're gonna gently press the knee back, okay? And you can stay here, especially if you're already feeling like, whoa, that's a lot. Or you can gently open into a bit of a twist so that top shoulder, left arm would roll to the ground. Now, if you're not feeling anything in your hip at all, you can bring your bottom leg a little bit closer up towards you, and that should give you that stretch into the inner, or into there's sort of a special place in the outer hip there that you may feel the stretch. If it feels like, whoa, super intense, that kind of hurts, just walk them a little bit away from your face, okay, if that makes sense. And I'm just kind of allowing my left hip to drift towards the ground. Nice. And then we'll allow the knee to gently fall in as it probably wants to. And then we'll roll to our side and then to the second side for our butt core. So you can roll over or you can flip, whatever works for you. Kind of know what it looks like now so you don't necessarily have to be seeing me. So I'm just laying on my left side. I've got my head in my hand, but it could be on my arm or on a pillow. The knees are just not at a 90-degree angle, just slightly pointed down, natural curve in the lower back, gentle engagement through the core. Flared toes. Then we do this funny clamshell. So the knee lifts, then the foot does, the knees come together, and then the feet. So it's like doing a little wave kind of motion. Yeah. So maybe inhaling as the leg lifts and exhaling as the leg descends. And don't worry too much about that. Just keeping the breath kind of gentle and even is enough. And I'm aiming for about 8 of these, but I'm quite bad at counting while talking. So we're feeling around for 8. I'm gonna guess 2 more. And rest, you can take that soft fist and gently pad out. Nice. Okay, and then we'll straighten out the top leg, point the toes a little bit down, and then sort of similar alignment here, just the heel is going back and up, lower, heel goes back and up. So we're trying to activate the glute max and then the glute med. So you're feeling kind of the back of your glute work as the heel goes back and then the side as it goes up. Again, we're aiming for around 6 of these. But for me, it's really just if you're working to a place of a bit of fatigue, that's where you're strengthening. It could happen after 3, you could need 30. Okay, so it kind of depends on the person, but we're aiming for about 6, which I think is around here. And let's rest. Again, we can pad out the outer hip. This is the sore side, hey, Cindy? Yeah. Yeah, so we're gentle with that for sure. Okay, so we can take this last one here if you're willing and able, so that top leg can go a little bit forward, so it's kind of in line with the bottom thigh. Again, toes turn a little bit down and just going straight up and down, and this one is pretty unambiguous, like you'll feel it. Yeah, and you may or may not notice that your opposite hip is working too every time we do this. That's why the second side usually feels harder, because we've already fatigued it a bit. Yeah. This one I find is pretty powerful, so we can get a lot of juice in just a few. Yeah, so I think about one more here, 6-ish. Maybe that was 7, and then relax and pat out the outer hip. And this part is over. You guys are doing great. Yeah, we'll get back to the things that feel good in the moment from here. So we'll take this funny hip opener and we'll do other ones. So if this one doesn't work for you, don't worry, we'll get to other options. So you're gonna place your foot down just in front of your thigh. You might keep it there, you might need to bring it in a little, you might need to move it back, everybody is different. Pressing your knee up towards the sky, and then if you'd like, you can try opening into a little bit of a twist. So you're just letting your right shoulder come down. Whew, this is a tighter side for me for sure. So I might move the leg a little bit away just so it's not feeling like too much. If I'm not feeling anything, I can kind of inch the foot a little closer to my face, which not on this side. I did need a little bit more on the other side, but not here. And just allowing the right hip to be kind of heavy and soft. And I'm just using my left hand to keep the knee roughly pointing up to the sky. That doesn't have to be perfect. Beautiful. And then let's gently release the knee in, come to laying on your side, and just take a moment to rest. And then let's come up to our hands and our knees. So spreading the fingers underneath the shoulders, knees under the hips. We're going to take some cat and cows. And this can be done in a lot of different kinds of shapes. So you could have your fists down if your wrists are sensitive. You could do this in seated as well if you're not comfortable on your hands and your knees. but in general, I'm just going to move the spine a bit. So inhaling into a little back bend shape and exhaling to curl under. Eyes could be closed and just really taking your time with this one. And this is just a little thing that you could play with if you want. As you're exhaling to curl, think about pushing your hands and knees away from each other. You might find a little bit more opening in your back when you do that. And then as you inhale and come into that little back bend, hug the hands and the knees towards each other, and you might feel a little bit more of an opening in the front. So just something to play with a little bit. You could also see what it feels like so it's that, but in a slightly different way. So as you exhale, you could draw the hands and the knees towards each other, kind of into the midline, rather than towards each other this way, or all of them at once. And that will kind of intensify it. And then as you're inhaling, it's like you're trying to stretch your knees apart from each other, hands apart from each other. And again, you might just feel it a little bit differently. So just something to explore, see what works for you, what feels good. You're also welcome to close your eyes and just play around. And that could include side to side movement, circles, just really, where does your body need a little bit of space today? Where is it feeling good? Maybe you're feeling your core and your hips a little bit after that work that we did on the ground. Let's take a couple more breaths here. And some of you might be wanting to try a downward dog here. So if you would like to do that, you could walk your hands forward a little, tuck your toes, lift up your bum. And then you can keep moving in that intuitive way. So bending one knee at a time is nice. Swaying the hips side to side. Keep a little bit of a bend in your elbows and hug them a little towards each other. That'll help to keep the tension out of your neck. And then let's make our way to our bellies. So you can come to your knees or not. You can come forward through a little plank and then lower all the way down. And let's take strange cobra. If you have a favorite one or one that kind of works better for you, please feel free to do that. Okay, otherwise we'll try strange cobra. So we've got fingertips off the mat to the right and the left and a little bit ahead. Tops of the feet press down, kneecaps lift, core is gently engaged. And we're just gonna lift up. On the inhale and on the exhale, come down. So think elbows lifting and then drawing back as you inhale. And exhale, lower. I like this one for the upper back. Inhale. And lower. And if this is feeling good and you want to add on a little, you can come with me here. So inhaling to rise, you can look to the left and dip your right shoulder towards the ground, but try not to move your hips, just your upper back and shoulders. Up through center. And then look to the right and you can dip your left shoulder if that's feeling good. And again, try to keep your pelvis steady. And again. Beautiful. And then up through center. And then let's come straight down and just have a little rest. You can take a cheek or your forehead to the mat. Let your heels drop apart. Take a nice deep breath into your belly. Okay, so let's take one more variation here. And this one's also for the upper back and the shoulders. So you can take your hands down beside your hips and have the palms actually facing up. And then press the tops of your feet down, kneecaps lift, pubic bone presses down just as before. And then just lift your chest a little bit. It doesn't have to be high. Lift your hands too so they're floating. Okay, inhale. And as you exhale, try to touch your thumbs. Inhale. And squeeze, try to touch your thumbs together. They don't have to actually touch. We're just activating these upper mid back muscles, squeezing. And one more time, this time you might actually hook your thumbs or interlace your fingers, and then you can press those down towards your heels as you open the chest. If you happen to have a strap handy and you're more comfortable holding a strap, you can certainly do it that way. We're not gonna be here too long, just a couple more breaths. And then relax and take your opposite cheek or forehead to the mat. Let your bum relax. Take a nice deep breath into your belly. Notice how that feels. And then let's take a child's pose. So you can widen your knees a little bit, bring your hips back to your heels. And lately I quite like this variation where the palms are together and the elbows are bent. So the thumbs come towards the back of the neck or the upper back. So feel free to try that if it works for you. You don't have to take that variation, obviously, but if it does feel good, why not? And you might be rocking your hips slightly side to side, and you might be in stillness. Beautiful. Let's take another nice deep breath here. Okay, and then release your arms from that shape if they're in it. Lift your heart up and walk your hands over to the right. So we're stretching over towards the right side. Let your left thumb be really nice and heavy towards the heel and reach out with that left hand. Excuse me. Breathing along that left side body. And then come through center and all the way over to the other side, reaching the left fingertip, or sorry, the right fingertips to the left. Right hip nice and long and heavy, stretching out into that. I often feel this kind of under my shoulder blade. Might feel it along your back too. Beautiful. And then let's come through center and just take a little rest in your child's pose. And we're going to make our way towards standing. So if you can come through downward dog, I'll invite you to do that. We'll go from there. So you can come back to hands and knees, fingers spread, tuck the toes, lift your bum. You don't have to stay here really at all, okay? When you're ready, we'll walk the feet to the hands, coming into a standing forward bend. That might mean resting elbows on bent knees. It might mean hanging down. It might mean holding opposite elbows and swaying. And then we'll roll up. So you can bend your knees, lean back into your heels, and slowly curl up one vertebrae at a time. If your back is more comfortable with it, you can look forward, keep your back neutral, and rise up like that. Yeah, and just take a moment here. You might be fidgeting. Some yoga teachers are anti-fidgeting. I'm pro fidgeting. I think it's fine. Okay. And then notice what it feels like for you to let your weight come back into your heels. So soften your knees a little and just think of the weight of your hips being over your heels. Soften your glutes back slightly. Allow your heart to lift and your shoulders to drop. And just notice where your head wants to rest. For a lot of us, we could lift the chin just slightly and see if that allows the jaw to relax. And just notice energetically how that feels, or like if there's sort of a mood to it for you. When I do that, I feel like I'm just slowing down a little rather than leaning forward. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of standing today, nothing too intense. But I'll invite you to come and stand in the middle of your mat so that you have the mat kind of, you're facing the long edge of your mat, you're in the middle, and we'll just widen the feet apart. We'll do a couple of warriors. So nice wide stance here, and then I'll mirror you for this part. So turn your right toes out to the right. You can turn your left toes in a little bit and then bend the knee so it's right over top of your ankle. So this is essentially warrior two, but we're going to come into side angle pose. So you can lean your elbow onto your thigh, keep your left hand on your hip, and turn your heart open to the sky. Or you could reach that arm up, or you could take it alongside your ear. Okay, ground down through the outer left heel. Lengthen your tailbone a little bit and just slightly turning your heart open. I find actually with this one, I really like to press down and forward with the elbow. So that lifts me up a little and gives me even a bit more of a side stretch. Okay, if you're comfortable here, try holding the side or the back of your head with your left hand and then turning your gaze even a little bit more up to the sky. So we just add a little bit of a shoulder opening too. And this variation for me is like, this is the one that feels good. The other ones, there are benefits to them, but this one is really the one that my body says yes to the most. One more nice deep breath. So good. And then gently release your arm, look down for balance, come back up. You can straighten your leg and we'll just switch sides right away. So turning those right toes in, left toes out. Bending your knee right over your ankle. So for most of us, that means we have to press it back a little. And then bring your elbow down to your thigh. Your hand can start on your hip. Sometimes that helps to just turn the heart up a little bit. If you're trying to kind of get your heart and your pelvis in line, sometimes we kind of lean forward. So think of pressing your hips forward, leaning your chest back. You could reach that right arm up or over your ear, and then really pressing into the outer arch of the right foot. So this right leg should be really nice and active. Maybe you're holding the side or the back of your head so that your neck can actually relax a little and you're getting a bit more of that opening into the shoulder. So for me, this is a side bend. That's what's happening here for me. And if I press my elbow down and forward, it actually gives me even a bit more of that side stretch feeling. Yeah. And you can tell me later if you like this variation as much as I do. Let's take one more inhale. And then gently release your arm, look down, come back up. Nice work, you guys. And then parallel your feet so that all the toes are pointing towards the long edge of your mat or even slightly tilted in, just a little bit. And then let's interlace the fingers behind the back. You could also hook thumbs, or if you do have that strap, if your shoulders are a little tighter, you can hold your strap with your palms facing forward. Hug your elbows together and then press the hands down as you lift your heart and just stay here for a moment. This is a really nice chest opener. Allow your chin to lift a little bit. And you can stay right here or bend the knees slightly, tilt your heart down and allow your fists to rise over your head. And if that feels too intense, no problem to just release your hands. Okay, if it's feeling good, stay. Keep that tiny bit of a bend in your knees. And I find it really helpful to kind of press the heels apart as if I was trying to stretch the mat a little. What that does is it activates the outer hips, which helps to release the lower back, and then we get kind of more of a functional stretch here that isn't stressful for the lower back. Okay, and then if you haven't already, go ahead and release your hands down to the ground. So we're still in this wide-legged forward fold, but the hands are down. We're gonna do a couple things here that feel good for me. So a little bit of a bend in the knees, let your weight come back towards your heels, but walk your hands forward up on fingertips like that strange cobra. And then melt your heart back between your thighs. Let your head relax. There's almost this feeling of hammocking the heart back. So the weight is really in the legs. The fingertips are adding a little bit of traction. You could try your hands a little closer or farther apart, especially if your shoulders are bugging you here. This should feel really good. It shouldn't hurt. Sometimes I like to sway my chest a bit from side to side here. Okay, and then come back up onto the fingertips, but then we're going to walk them over to the left side. Kind of like we were doing in the child's pose before. You're going to reach that right hand a little more forward, bend your left knee a bit, and drag your right hip back. So it's quite similar to that child's pose stretch, but just in a bit of a different place. Nice, and then we'll walk the hands back through center and just go over to the other side. So to the right, left fingertips are reaching to the right and sort of forward. The right knee bends a little bit and you're dragging the left hip back. You can let your head relax. Beautiful, and then we'll bring ourselves back through center. You can heel toe your feet a little bit closer together so that you're kind of in a standing forward bend again. And then let's see if we can come down from here. So I'll offer through a squat. So you can have your feet, they're just a bit wider than your shoulders, turn the toes out slightly, and then you can sink your bum. You might need to sit on something, okay? And if this is just not gonna work for your knees, no problem. Just sit your bum right down and widen your feet apart, okay? If you are in that squat, you can take your palms together and your knees your elbows into your inner knees. And you might explore taking the backs of your hands together and seeing if you can line up your fingernails and press your fingernails into each other. It's a little bit of a brain problem there as well, and quite a nice release for the wrists. Lovely. Okay, and then let's release that. Sit on your bum. Release your legs. We can take them in a little windshield wiper. And then let's circle the wrists a couple of times. And reverse directions. Okay, so from here, I'd like to do a seated hip opener is the one I want to do. If you have a favorite one, if you love thread the needle or pigeon, feel free to take that. Otherwise, we'll try this little variation. So I'm going to have a seat on my low cushion here. So that could be like a little pillow or something, whatever you've got. And then you can extend your legs out in front of you. Fingertips behind you. Take your right ankle to your left thigh. Foot flexed. And then bend the left leg. So we're looking for a bit of an opening in the outer hip. Okay, keeping the feet flexed, fingertips behind you. Think heart towards shin. And you might rock a little bit from side to side. So I like this one a lot because it's pretty functional. It works for a lot of people. And then we can take it into a little bit of a different variation that some people love, some people hate. So if you've got some space here, you could walk your right foot in so that your shins stack on top of each other. And that might be a seated right here, or you might explore a little bit of a forward fold. So it's still going to be, it's the same muscle group, same hip opener, but just a little bit different depending on what's going on in your body. So wherever you are, your knees should feel safe, your back should feel safe, and it should feel like it's you know, a stretch in the hip, but it's not stressful. It's not making you grit your teeth, right? If you're in the forward fold, maybe you're allowing your neck to relax. Beautiful. And then if you're folded, let's roll up. We can come back through the same shape that we met in. Release your left leg, and then your right, and you can give them a wobble or windshield wiper. And let's take the second side. So left ankle to right thigh, gently bending in until you feel something. Up on fingertips, heart pressing towards the shin. This is cobbler's pose. And there could be a little bit of a rock from side to side here. And the thing we just want to watch out for is that the foot is flexed, which helps to protect the knee joints. And this is an awesome place to stay if you're feeling a good stretch here. Some people do like the forward fold. There's just different things going on with that. So if you want to bring in that bottom leg so that the shins can stack, feel free to give that a try. And maybe there's a forward fold for you there, maybe there isn't. But try to keep in mind that what we're looking for is a hip opener that feels sustainable, where you're not in a lot of tension or in a lot of pain. And even if that was true for you on the first side and here it's not, we want to honor what we're feeling in the moment. So don't be afraid to go back a step or two if this one isn't working for you, or completely change your shape if that's what you need to do. Beautiful. Okay, we'll roll up if you're folded and gently come back to that first position and then gently release. And again, we can wobble the legs and give them a little shake or a windshield wiper. And let's just very briefly take the full forward fold. So extending both legs out in front of you, you might want to draw the flesh of the sit bones back. I have my toes together right now, but you could do hip distance or even wider apart if you need some more space. Fingertips beside you, rolling the shoulders onto the back. And you might be staying here in Dandasana or stick pose. It is okay to bend your knees. And then just go ahead and fold forward. So I'm hoping forward folds, the energy of a forward fold is kind of calm and soothing, not for everyone, but for a lot of people. And that's what I'm hoping you're feeling here. So Paschimottanasana actually means intense stretch for the back line of the body. So it can be intense. Okay, so just be gentle with it. Intense Western facing pose. The Western side of the body is the back. Really nice. And then when you're ready, let's gently come up out of that. Some people like to hold that pose like that for 5 minutes. Some people it's like, okay, 10 seconds is enough. So see what works for you. And let's just take those windshield wipers one more time. And I'm going to invite a little transition towards Shavasana. So I'm going to offer a bit more of a yin restorative pose that we can sort of begin our rest in. And then if you want to stay there, you can. And if there's something in particular that you want to do that works for you in terms of yin or restorative pose, feel free to set that up. I know some of you have props at home, some of you don't. So I have a bolster here. I'm going to put it behind my back. You could also have a cushion, a rolled towel, nothing, just sort of one block. You could have, if you have one of these things, you could just lay back with the block kind of in between your shoulder blades. So if you have any kind of prop, you can put it between your shoulder blades. And then you're just going to lay back over it. I'm going to try soles of the feet together, knees open wide. You may or may not need support underneath the knees, for example, with blocks or pillows. And if you don't have that and it's not feeling really comfortable in your legs, just go ahead and extend them like Shavasana. I'm not too concerned with what the legs are doing here. And then find the right place for your arms. So that might be hands on hips. It might be arms 45 degrees out. I've got kind of a T shape here, which is going to give me a little bit more of the chest opening. So feel free to kind of explore where feels right for you. I want you to feel comfortable and safe here. This isn't a pose that's meant to be challenging, okay? It's meant to help prepare us for our rest and kind of receive some of the work that we've been doing in our practice thus far. I'm hoping you can take a really deep breath here and allow that breath to move all the way into the bottom of your heart. You're invited to stay here just for the last minute or two of our practice, or if you'd like to come into a more classic Shavasana, laying on the back or whatever works for you, just a really comfortable shape where you can rest and receive. And again, if you're already feeling like you're there, no need to move. And take a moment to notice how you're feeling right now. And if you have the time and the desire to stay in your Shavasana, please feel welcome to do that as long as you like. Otherwise, we can start to invite a deeper breath. Maybe wiggling the toes and the fingers, rocking the head. You can stretch your arms up over your head if you like, legs out long. Gathering the knees into the chest and curling over to one side. And if you are coming out of a heart opening shape, maybe just take an extra beat to allow your arms to kind of wrap around your heart. And when you're ready, come on up to a seat. You can take your hands together at your heart or over top or wherever feels right in your body right now. And then gently bow your mind to your hands, taking a moment to honor and acknowledge whatever it took for you to get here to your practice today. To honor and acknowledge the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us in our practice. And to honor and acknowledge the land that we practice on, wherever that may be in the world. Thank you for sharing your practice with me today.